Let's talk about rituals in business. You know, when you're trying to position your business in such a way that there is no room for the competition, that the competition really comes to a point where they don't even matter anymore, because you're alone, working in a space where people perceive you as totally different than the other businesses. And a simple way of doing that is creating rituals in your business. Think about this. Why do you think there are so many churches out there and so many network marketing companies out there? Because they have rituals. And rituals make people stick to you. So in a church, for example, you have callings. You have processes that they follow exactly the same way when they send the offerings, when they send whatever happens in there. So they have all those processes, those rituals that keep people together. They also have levels of ascension. You have to be worthy to get to do this, and then you have to do something else to get to do that. In network marketing follows exactly the same pattern. They have rituals everywhere on how you consume the product or the services that they provide, and then you have levels of ascension as well, where the information will be released according to where you are. Those are rituals. The structure of this is a ritual. So you have to think, okay, but how can I do that? Because I'm not a church and I'm not a network marketing company. So how can I establish a ritual in my business? There are many, many, many ways. The key here is once you establish one, you keep consistent. Let me tell you about two that we have implemented in our consulting business. So a little while ago, I had my offices, and we had about 4 or 5 rooms. And the very first one would be the reception in most cases. We used to call the Star Bus. So people would come in, and they would have a place there where they could get cocoa or coffee or tea and some snacks and stuff like that. And there were no receptionists in there, and they would have to be in that room for about 5 minutes. Of course, one of us would come and greet them, but they would always be there for 5 minutes. The reason behind that was we wanted them to decompress from whatever was happening before they came into the office. And everything in that office, magazines, things we had there, they were about us. They were about what we do. So they would get into that mode before they would go inside to whatever room they needed to go next. Very simple thing, but it worked. They got into the habit of that to the point that they would come, serve themselves, sit, grab a magazine, listen to something, or whatever was the process. And when we started giving webinars and we told about rituals, some of them would come and say, no, I've been your client for a very long time. I don't need to be here. And we would say, no, you do. Please sit down. I'll be right back. And there would go those 5 minutes. That's a very simple one. Here's another one that is really effective if you are a consultant or a coach. Clients, let's say you go to a network meeting, somebody tells they want to meet with you. So what is the process that we used to work with? The very first thing we would do is get their information and tell them, I'm going to send you a questionnaire. Please fill the questionnaire and send me back so I can set up the time. And we would send them a questionnaire with a few questions. I don't even remember how many, but let's say 4 or 5. And they were simple questions about their business. Well, that questionnaire had 2 purposes. One, of course, give me information about that business before I meet with them. So I would be more prepared, of course, to lead that into a sales. But the very important thing that questionnaire did was shift the relationship between the two of us. Because look at this. If you're in a network meeting and somebody comes to you and they say, I want to meet with you, the relationship is, I'm a prospect, you are going to try to sell me something. And when we meet, I'm going to try to avoid being sold, because nobody likes to be sold. The moment you send a questionnaire, that shifts the relationship. Now they are really thinking, why do I have to answer these questions? Maybe I don't have enough money to work with them. Will they accept me as a client? So you just shifted. Now they are thinking if they fit to work with you. Can you see the difference? That's extremely powerful, because when they come to the meeting, now you're not in the position, I'm going to sell you something. You're in the position of, let's see if we can even work together. Totally different deal here. Totally different outcome as well. This was just to, everything in our process, in our sales process, would follow some rituals that we would never not apply them. For example, comes the time that they want to know how much it costs to work with you, right? And if you do everything right, if you follow all those rituals every single time, you're going to see that they ask that question. You don't have to, okay, let's tell how we work together. It may happen 1% of the time. Most of the time they will ask, so how much it is to work with you? How do we work together? Something like that. One thing we never did was mention the amount of money. We would always show them the amount of money. In our case, because we always had a computer, we would pull a page with the prices there, and we would point option A and option B. And then we would be silent. We would not break the silence until they did. And what usually used to happen is they would look around, and then they would look at a wall where I actually had pictures of all my clients smiling. And then they would maybe come back with an objection, or let's do it, or I can pay in this many times. But then we would be able to close the deal. All this was really prepared ahead of time, and it was conducted as rituals. We would never shift. It always works. So you have to think in your business, of course your business might not be consulting, might be, for example, home remodeling. Well, do you have a questionnaire that they go through? What can you implement there that becomes a ritual? It's different from your competition because they're not thinking about these things, because they're not watching these videos, and you have to incorporate that. And you're going to see that everything else shifts to a better outcome. Doing the sales becomes a lot easier. If you are in business, my friend, you have to sell. Be in peace with that. It can actually be very fun, especially when you prepare ahead of time what type of rituals you could incorporate that would create a lot more traction. You're going to see that your closing rates are going to go through the roof. So think, if churches and network marketing apply that and they have thousands, when not millions of people following them, many times blindly, you have to consider that rituals can be extremely, extremely powerful in business. So let's go get some rituals together.